This is over my house right now. What is that?
Drones everywhere. Are they really suspicious drones? What are they? We have the top 10 facts about suspicious drones.
They've been all over the news, and they might even be in your backyard. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And Andrew is actually the one who brought this up initially. I didn't hear it until he brought it up, and now I'm seeing it everywhere. There are drones in New York, New Jersey. What is going on with these drones?
I'm attorney Andrew Myers, and today we're going to take a look at the top 10 facts about drones. Are they drones? Are they airplanes? Are they helicopters? Are the people in the federal government lying to us? Let's take a look at the top 10 facts about drones.
Point number 10. There's been multiple sightings of these drones. There's been sightings of these drones in New Jersey, New York City, New York suburban Rockland County, and several counties in eastern Pennsylvania, Maryland, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. New York Police Department reports multiple drone sightings over the Bronx, but soon after officers responded to calls about the sightings, the drones disappeared. Many of the sightings were near airports, including the Teterboro and Trenton Robbinsville airports. So, numerous reports over Cape Cod, Massachusetts. One resident in Cape Cod town of Harwich told police she saw 10 to 15 drones over her house beginning at around 9 p.m. one evening. Initial Northeast USA sightings have spread to Texas, Ohio, California, and Florida. So they are everywhere. The FBI, which is leading an investigation, reports receiving over 5,000 tips since beginning its own investigation between November 26th and December 17th, 100 of which were credible leads. And 5,000 tips. And I think also just pointing out November 26th, it's so widespread in just a few weeks.
So the federal government has made a multiple bunch of statements. The FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Aviation Administration, and the Department of Defense finally got together and issued a joint statement. But tell me if you really think it answered any questions. We have not identified anything anomalous and do not assess the activity to date to present a national security or public safety risk. Yet, White House National Security Advisor John Kirby said, there's absolutely no indication at this point that there's a national security threat or a public security threat. Now, how can they, on the one hand, say they really don't know what it is, and on the other hand, they say, it's not a danger. I mean, give me a break.
It's no problem. We just don't know what it is, but surely nothing bad can happen. So not all government agencies agree with this official line. So Orange County, New Jersey Sergeant Kevin Finessi said, we've had something coming at us, and as it's coming at us, it stops. It does like a 180 in the air, and then it drives away, and then it comes back and does giant U around us. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan says, he personally witnessed and videoed what appeared to be dozens of large drones in the sky above my residence in Davidsville, Maryland, 25 miles from our nation's capital. I observed the activity for approximately 45 minutes, beginning at about 9:45 p.m. one evening.
Fact number 7, suspicious drones over military bases. The FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the FAA, and the Department of Defense, again, had a joint statement which said drones near or over military installations are not new. The Department of Defense takes unauthorized access over its airspace seriously and coordinates closely with federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities as appropriate. And the FAA noted separately on social media that in New York and New Jersey, there are thousands of daily drone operations. Okay.
And I do want to point out from that one too, like how it says the thousands of daily drone operations, you kind of see like, because there's so many recent drones, I think you see a lot of people like, oh, well, drones have been around. We've always had drones. These aren't a big deal. I think that not only just the frequency, but the size of some of these drones is, I think, why it's blown up so much in the recent media. But so for federal aviation restrictions, the FAA imposed 22 TFRs, or temporary flight restrictions, prohibiting drone flights in parts of New Jersey and New York, including areas around Picatinny Arsenal Air Base, Trump National Golf Club, Bedminster, LaGuardia Airport, Long Island, Bronx, Queens, and these restrictions are going to last until January 17.
Yeah, so you know what? That's a little bit suspicious. I mean, if these things have been happening for quite a long time, how come we're just hearing about it now? The military, this is fact number 5, has kind of minimized the risk to U.S. air bases. The Pentagon's deputy press secretary, Sabrina Singh, said, "Our initial assessment is that this is not the work of a foreign adversary or foreign entity." She claims the drones are not U.S. military drones and denounced New Jersey Representative Jeff Van Drew, who had claimed that there was an Iranian mothership off the east coast of the United States launching the drones. Pentagon spokesperson, so a lot of crazy things have been said, and we don't know what's true and what's not true anymore. Here in this episode, I went through a lot of different material that's out there, and I tried to hone it down to 10 things that stand out to me anyhow. But it seems to me the military is seriously minimizing what's going on. I think that they know what's going on, and I think it's obvious they know what's going on. They just don't want to let on. So this Pentagon spokesperson said it is leaving it up to local law enforcement and the FBI to investigate the origins and types of drones. Come on now. Since when does the Pentagon leave stuff up to the local police? I hope they're not the police in Moscow, Idaho.
FAA aircraft light requirements. The right wingtip needs to have a green blinking light, while the left wingtip needs a red blinking light, and the tail has a white light. The white light is located on the aircraft's tail and sometimes additionally on the wingtips facing backwards.
I thought it was important to put that in here because, ever since people became aware of these things, there's a lot of sightings. Now, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but I am saying that now that, it's on people's minds, in my view, some of the things that people have reported are airplanes, and some of the things that have been reported are helicopters. But that doesn't mean that this drone thing isn't for real. I think that the people in Washington are trying to minimize it. And because there are people out there that are, reporting stuff that, turns out to be an airplane or a helicopter, they're capitalizing on that and trying to claim that all of the sightings are something else. And I think that they're wrong about that. So this came up. We were discussing this before, and I don't want to say you suggested, but people have suggested, well, if it came over my property, I'd shoot it down. No, you can't do that. It's illegal under federal law to shoot down an aircraft or anything else. A private citizen shooting at any aircraft, including unmanned aircraft, poses a significant safety hazard. An unmanned aircraft hit by gunfire could crash, causing damage to persons or property on the ground, or it could collide with other objects in the air. And by the way, I didn't rewrite this. I should have put quotes around this. This comes straight from an FAA website. The FAA says shooting at an unmanned aircraft could result in a civil penalty from the FAA and or criminal charges from federal, state, or local law enforcement.
And I didn't say this, but if there was an uptick in buying pellet guns, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not the one shooting anything out of the sky, but I also wouldn't necessarily leave it alone if it were in my backyard. So
Right.
Our second point, are the government statements credible? Florida U.S. Senator Rick Scott, a member of the Senate Homeland Security, Budget and Armed Services Committees, expressed his belief that the U.S. public doesn't trust the Pentagon, Homeland Security, or the FBI. I'm a business guy. If someone came in and didn't give me information in my company, I would fire them. The federal government does it every day to U.S. senators. They come in, they say stuff, and it's pure BS, or they omit the information. So the American public has completely lost trust. So we have no idea what's going on. And I think that's a big sentiment that a lot of people have, where they're not getting all the information they need and they feel unsafe, and they're having issues trusting the government as a result.
The number one fact is that there are, in fact, serious unanswered questions regarding jurisdiction. Now, a U.S. Air Force spokesperson, Ann Stefanik, confirmed that drones have been taken down near bases in recent years. and she confirms that secrecy limits details shared with the public. Military forces can intercept drones flying directly over bases, but their authority ends once the aircraft leaves the restricted airspace. So think about that. The military has jurisdiction to, quote unquote, intercept a drone that's flying directly over the base, but their authority ends once the aircraft leaves the restricted airspace. So, who has jurisdiction once it flies over the airbase and then it flies on to New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania is not far. Who has jurisdiction? The FAA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, NORAD, the Air Guard. I mean, there's so many different agencies in the government. One would hope that they're talking, but it really, from what we've seen in other situations, it doesn't really seem that anybody in the government is really cooperating. And since this whole thing, started back in the middle of in the middle of November, there've been a lot of sightings, and people have said, they've seen these things right over their house, and they're the size, some of them, of an SUV. That's a pretty big thing.
And I mean, if no government agencies want to claim the air above our houses and all that, I'll claim it. I'll start shooting them. It's just like the damage of property. I understand the concerns about causing potential damage by trying to get these things out of the sky. But at the same time, it almost feels like a violation if you're in your backyard and there's this weird thing flying around. It sounds like they're avoiding people, and it's also hard too because I've seen my neighbors with their little drones in the backyard playing around, so they are easily accessible. I've had friends that use the drones and they take the little videos and stuff like that, and it's cool technology. But I think at the end of the day, for it to be freaking out the public like this is not okay.
I think it's clear there's something going on. I think it's clear the government knows that there's something going on. I think they know exactly what it is, but they're not saying it because they don't want us to know. There's all kinds of theories. I mean, I don't know. Iran having a mothership, I don't know. One of the theories that has some credibility is that some nuclear material has been lost. Maybe it was by an agency. Maybe it was by one of the utilities. Maybe it was by one of those great big huge container ships that come into the ports with, hundreds and thousands of those containers, which are the size of the back of a tractor trailer, which is where they fit. And, with thousands of those things on the back of a ship, could one of them have gotten lost? It seems from the patterns that we're hearing, you take the 10 things we just talked about, you take all the reports that we hear, there seems to be a pattern. It started out initially with some drones that multiple people have explained as being the size of an SUV, and it started out in Jersey. Then it kind of fanned out. About a week ago, we heard from the people in Long Island, and they had a press conference saying, we demand to know. We want to know what's going on. Then it fanned out further from just, the part of New Jersey that's kind of near New York City, went to the rest of New Jersey. Then it went over to Pennsylvania. Then it went national. Then we heard reports of these things in Ohio and California. So that leads me to believe that they're looking for something. They're looking for something. Who is they? Well, they is probably the Defense Department, the Homeland Security Department, supervised by the Air National Guard and the FAA. We don't know. Now, some of them, sure. People, people say that if you're a hammer, all your problems are a nail. So people armed with this thought that, has now been reported that there are drones out there, they're going to see drones if it's an airplane. I mean, where I live, I don't live that far from an airport, and you see airplanes all the time. Sometimes there's this one pattern that doesn't come up very often, but every now and then when they have a landing pattern at this airport, the planes fly right behind my house, and I can actually read what airline it is and count how many windows there are. But there are times when if you are in a certain position, the airplanes look like they are still. They look like they are stationary. And so is that what people are seeing? I don't know. But most people know the difference between an airplane and a helicopter, and then the little drones, like you can actually buy them at Walmart or Best Buy or online. I almost bought one once, but I never did when I actually thought about how much it would cost, not only the drone, but the insurance and the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So I never got it. But I mean, what we're talking about here is none of those things. It's not an airplane, even though there's some people that don't know what an airplane looks like at night when it's coming at you or flying away from you. It's not an airplane. It's not a helicopter. We all know what a helicopter looks like. It's not one of these toy drones like you were talking about. That's, they're fun. I've seen them. Actually, sometimes law enforcement uses them to survey a scene or to watch somebody. I knew a situation in my town where they were actually using a drone to follow somebody. So that's not what this is. Just common sense tells you that the way all these different agencies are saying different things, and the guy from the White House saying, well, we don't know what they are, but there's no reason to be concerned. Come on, we're not children. Tell us what it is. We can handle it. And we know that the people in government are being less than forthcoming. And that's as far as I'll go about saying that. But it's just, there's something going on. It's not people that are misidentifying airplanes. There's something going on, and someone somewhere needs to. Now that one right there, I'll stop it right there. That one right there to me looks like an airplane. I don't know.
It looks like it's moving pretty fast, I guess, is my analysis of it. But like you also brought up another point too, which was so fascinating. Well, you brought up a couple good points. One of them being that instead of telling us not to worry, you just tell us what's going on, because if you tell people not to worry, they're going to worry. But secondly, too, you mentioned the price of these things. So for there to be so many, this is probably over hundreds of thousands of dollars just flying in the air. As these drones, if you're getting high quality cameras, are very, very expensive. So, I mean, the technology has come so far, and there's technology that probably exists that we don't even know about. So I can't imagine these little gold mines flying. That's why they don't want you to shoot them down, because they know they're expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the ones that I'm talking about in this episode aren't the ones that you can buy at the big box stores. I mean, the last time I looked at a serious one that had a camera on it, I thought, I'm an amateur photographer, very amateur photographer, even though I've taken classes in it and taken a ton of pictures that we've used on this podcast and also in all of my blog articles. I'm an amateur photographer, so I was interested in buying one of these. And at that time, I'm sure they're more now because of inflation, but at that time, a half decent one was $1,500. But and I've seen some of the networks and the big guy, the legacy media, I've seen them show pictures of those in association with this story and the phenomenon. That's not what we're talking about, guys. I know you're under deadline and you've got to present something, but that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about things that have been described by people in New Jersey as being the size of an SUV. That's not a hobbyist or an amateur photographer like I would have been. That's, there's something going on with these things, and people need to know it, because you know what? The old fashioned days of, we're the government, we're really so smart and smug. We'll just tell them. Those days are over. People don't trust you. People do not trust you. People in positions of power. People don't trust you anymore. People know that the first thing in the government rule book is assuage the public, calm them down, tell them there's nothing to worry about and that we have it all under control. People know that that's number one in the rule book of authority and power and government. We've heard it all before. We've heard it all before. Now, that one we're looking at here, that was in California, and it was appearing all over town in California, and people reported it, and there was never really a solid explanation for it. But, I mean, at some point, someone needs to come forward and say what it is. If they've lost some nuclear material and they're looking for it, let us know, because we're going to find out ultimately anyhow. And those of you who said there was nothing to worry about, you're going to look pretty silly.
Yeah. So. I mean, the whole thing is very scary, especially if it is a situation where they're looking for something that's nuclear, that they're looking for something that could be a danger to the public. And that's just the kind of situation where we go back to, if you just try to hide stuff, it gets worse, because if we had a clearer idea of what this was, then we wouldn't be worried that something horrible with like some nuclear lost parts are going to be found. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not in the school that it's aliens. I'm sorry, because the things look too much like, just what we've seen. They look too much like something you can see. They look too much like something that's, how do I say this?
Familiar.
They look too much like something that's been manufactured, probably in a plant in China or someplace like that. But so I don't ascribe to it's aliens theories. I know that people think that, and I don't see that. But look at that, a whole bunch of them in one area. And they're not the Starlink, because the Starlinks go up, the satellites that they're sending up to bring the internet to the whole world. They're in a line. Remember when they first started having the Starlinks, and people would report UFOs because there's a whole line of lights in the sky. It's a whole line of light points in the sky, and people would report them as UFOs. But that's not what we're looking at here. These are all kind of random. Now that's a bad example, because 3 of them are kind of in a line, but it's not Starlink, because generally speaking, they announce when they are going to launch the Starlink satellites. And we know, and people that do follow the news know, and see, these here are random, and they're all going in kind of different directions. So what is that?
And the thing is too, I wish, if it was like some type of, millionaire's toy, or maybe like these are supposedly potentially manned devices, where it's like maybe, it's theoretically like the fact that we know that it's not something recreational, because if it was something recreational, they would have told us already. That's what makes this more concerning.
And the thing that also makes it concerning is airports have actually been shut down. A couple of airports have been shut down because they've seen these things. And they, if it were a hobbyist, and I know about the hobbyists in Boston, Massachusetts, that were flying a drone too close to Logan Airport, and they were arrested, and they face federal charges for that. But if it was just them, why did they start appearing all of a sudden in mid-November? And the reports multiply. Now that one looks like an airplane to me. That one looked like an airplane a second ago. Let's see if I can.
Half the time I can't even tell an airplane from the star. So it's like they all look like airplanes to me.
That one, I'm trying to. There are people out there that are not real. That one right there, that's the one that to me looks like an airplane. I don't know, but there have been so many reported sightings of these things, and people have seen them really closely to their houses, and they're right above their homes, and they're flying around. I just think that people in government are already in very low regard in my observation, and to keep, sheltering us from the truth is something that needs to be addressed. So I don't know.
Yeah, I hope that we can kind of find some resolution to this, but the fact that it just keeps spreading makes me feel like that's far away. The fact that we don't have an answer, the fact that there's more, the fact that it's gone on for this long as it has, it's almost been a month of this. Where could it go?
Yeah, exactly. So that's my only closing thought, is that, there's a lot of stuff up in the sky. There's always been a lot of stuff up in the sky. And at night you can look out and see. I mean, sometimes you can see, and it has nothing to do with this episode we're doing, but sometimes you can look up and see the International Space Station. I was kind of a fan of the space program all along. I remember when you could actually see the space shuttle. They would say, it's flying over your town tonight at 8:33, and it'll come from the southeast and go to the northwest. So you could actually go out and see it. But that's not what we're seeing here, because those kind of things, they're tracked. There was one incident in which, there's a site, there's a website you can go on that tracks all aviation. And in a way, it's kind of scary, because you can look up and see something above your house, and they'll tell you, that's the flight from LaGuardia to France, and it's flying over your house. And in a way, I think that's dangerous. But there have been cases of people who know about that website, that tracking website, and they've seen stuff, and it's not on there, and it's obviously not some kid flying a little model drone he just got for Christmas or whatever. So I don't know. I think we beat this with a dead horse.
Yeah, if you guys made it this far, thank you for commenting your airplane emojis on the video that led to this. If you don't know, one of our previous videos, I said if you wanted a video on this, to leave airplane emojis, and you guys responded, and we appreciate that. So if you made it this far, give us some more airplanes. Be sure to like this video if you haven't already, if you enjoyed this video. And if you're new to our channel, please subscribe down below. And we can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.
Oh, one last thought. Remember, I didn't want to do the drones. Remember, we talked about this a couple of weeks in a row. I didn't want to do the drones. And then you said, I said, if we get 10 airplane emojis, I'll do it. So I was reluctantly counting all week. Oh, no. We have 3, we have 5, we have 7. Oh, no. And now it well exceeded 10. So that's the reason we're doing the drone episode, because you people made us. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for all of your comments. Thank you all very mumuch for all of your emojis. We do read all the comments. I try to answer as many as I can, but thankfully we have so many fans and subscribers now that I'm not physically capable of answering them all. But that's why we're doing the drone episode, because you asked us to.
Thank you guys for all your contributions, and we appreciate your support for our channel. We'll see you in the next one.
Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.